Hello, and welcome back to the Holistic Frugivore, where I teach you or I guide you to heal yourself from within. So, last week we talked about self responsibility and how, everything about our wellness comes down to our choices. And we hold a very powerful gift of self-responsibility, meaning no one else can take responsibility for where you're at, the decisions you make, and where your path will lead you, except yourself. And this week, we're going to talk about, I was going to talk about the digestive process, but I think I'm going to switch around I'm just switching it at the moment here. Of the digestive process to speaking to malabsorption. And I'm actually going to talk about the illusion of disease before we get into that malabsorption, because that'll be a good follow-up to this week. So as we step in to the world of holistic health, we're taking a big step away from the modern allopathic method of diagnosis and treatment. So with every one of us who take a step away from that and seek holistic methods and things outside of the regular mainstream allopathic medicine, with each one of those individuals stepping away, we are slowly working to empower ourselves, but not only empower ourselves and I hope to see this in my lifetime, but as a collective, we are working ourselves into a place of liberation from the shackles of our allopathic model. And for so long, we've been brought up in a way to see modern medicine as a savior. And no one is a savior. No medicine, no healing modality, none of it. None of it is the magic pill or the magic bullet or the magic solution. And I posted about this the other day on my Instagram, I believe, that all of those things, everything, whether it be a pharmaceutical medication, a vaccine, a homeopathic medicine, whatever it is that we're talking about, a supplement, whatever it is, they're all tools. Every single one should be looked at as a tool. None of it is the cure. None of it is the miracle. None of it is the magical solution. Because once we step away from treatment-based medicine, and we have to let go of a lot as we step away from treatment-based medicine, we learn to empower our body to heal itself. And that's all about what I'm getting us into with this podcast, is letting go of all of those treatment medicines. And holistic health has just as much of the treatment-based ideology as allopathic does, because we have these little essential oils or products or any of the things that we make or have or share as tools to treat something. But in the grand scheme, the greater understanding of the human body is that we don't need any of that. They're all wonderful at some point to be a tool, but in the end, most of them are just giving us a peace of mind. And many of the things can just give us a false sense of security, which is very prominent in allopathic medicine when we look at things like vaccines and antibiotics and all of that. A lot of that feeds into this fear of infection and fear of disease and fear of illness, and using those products gives you a false sense of security, because there's no way for you to really prove that any of those things worked to help you, because a lot of times they're prescribed or given as a just in case, like a vaccine on the vaccine schedule, or antibiotics if you get a cut or whatever it is, they give it to you just in case. And there's no way for you to prove whether or not that did anything. But you also can't really prove whether it didn't, except if you go without it. So I want to tell a quick little story here just to get into this episode. I haven't shared any of the pictures or anything about this incident with my son yet, because I'm waiting for it to fully play out. And what happened was, a week or so ago, he's 3.5. Him and his brother were playing on the bed, and he smashed his head into, I have like a bookcase headboard on the bed. So they were rolling up on the bed and jumping on each other, and he jumped on him and rolled off and slammed his head on an edge of part of the shelving. And it was right kind of just back off of the inside of his hairline. And it was, I bet it was at least 4 inches long. It was a big gash and fairly deep. Deep enough to where I would say most people would have gone to the doctor. But with the products that I had at home, a lot of herbs now, colloidal silver, I make the herbal salves, which uses, this you can find on my website as well. It uses herb infused oil with beeswax, shea butter, and essential oils, just to aid in the healing process. And I've just been cleaning it every morning, covering it with a bandage, and making sure it doesn't get dirty or he doesn't reopen it. And it's been about a week and a half now, and it's still it's healing slowly, but it's healing. And one of the most interesting things I'm noticing about the way this is healing versus what would happen had I taken him to the ER is, one, because of the depth of the gash and how I'm not pulling it closed on top like what stitches normally do, I'm seeing how his body is healing the wound from the bottom out to the surface. So this allows the body to heal it in a much more linear or appropriate fashion, a more natural way, rather than pulling the wound closed at the surface, almost forcing it to heal the way that it's stitched closed. And not only that, but when you're stitching it closed from the surface and it's a deep cut, that is where you have the risk of actually sewing. You're basically stitching, sewing outside factors. You want to talk to pathogens or bacteria, whatever, inside the wound and not allowing it to get out. It's almost more of a risk of infection when you force that surface skin closed. And the risk of something get in there is actually higher, because when I have it open the way I'm working with it, I'm using like a Perry bottle actually that I had after pregnancy and squirting water on the wound every day, allowing it to clean out, and it's nice and pink, the way healthy tissue looks. And of course, there's always that you need to be able to see or know what, you know, a decaying can look like, or infection. I hate saying infection just because we'll get into that further in this as well, that infection more often than not is just a stage of healing. And most often, as I'm kind of describing, infection in when you're dealt with in a hospital is almost in a way caused by the treatment methods that they have used. It's almost induced and misunderstood. So at the stage I'm at now, I'm keeping the wound nice and clean. The tissue that is healing is nice and pink and healthy looking. And the skin, the wound is healing from inside, deeper inside the wound, coming out to the surface. And it's healing very beautifully. And I'm very interested to see, I'm using, like I said, I'm using colloidal silver and my herbal salve on it every day and covering it with a bandage. I was using little butterfly bandages, but they weren't doing much. And it was I was seeing kind of the issue with stitches of trying to force the wound closed. And it was almost it didn't want to be closed in a weird way. So I'm trying to kind of listen to my gut feeling, my intuition in terms of this. And I'm learning to trust it a lot more. Like, I think we all need to be able to move down this path of trusting ourselves to be able to treat. And I don't even want to say treat, be able to handle these things at home. Because realistically, very few injuries can't be dealt with at home as long as you have the proper knowledge and supplies to deal with them. But over time, we've been made to believe that our modern medicine is this miracle, and we would be dying on the streets if we didn't have our antibiotics and vaccines and all this stuff, which is it's a very manipulated history that we've been told. So as I go down this path more and more, I just keep thinking, like, the conditioning that can be in your mind about how things used to be without modern medicine, is any of that really true? Or is it just a conditioned thought for us to accept this way of allopathic medicine and to, kind of worship this stuff and these pharmaceutical medicines and vaccines and antibiotics as these saviors, when really it's our body that is healing itself, no matter what tool you're using. It doesn't matter what product you want to say. None of it is the cure. None of it. The cure is when you let go of everything else. All of it. Let go of all the ideas, the ideologies, the beliefs, the expectations of anything outside of us, to heal you and know that it's you yourself that heals yourself every time. And sometimes we need that support from outside people to help us build that confidence, or other sources or books or modalities to help us build that confidence in self-healing. But at the end of the day, it's all us. And that goes for mental health as well. Nothing outside of you is going to solve that except your own inner work. And I am going to do an episode later on in here. I think I'm going to make a note of it right now, of mental illness and addiction and the healing that goes with that. A lot of kind of shadow work and trauma healing. That's really at the root of mental illness and addictions. So, but today, let's keep talking about this. So really, we have a huge illusion of disease. We have all these disease labels with a collection of symptoms, slapping the label on, here's your med, here's your protocol, that the hospitals or even psychiatry has designed across the board. And it's not a personalized protocol at all. It's the same thing across the board. Here's your diagnosis, here's your drug. And they don't acknowledge the differences in the different places that each person is at. And they don't really give you that individual care unless you really push for it. But then the doctors don't always have that knowledge. And I hate to say it because I have respect for people who go through that schooling. But at the end of the day, those medical schools are an aspect of Rockefeller medicine. It's an aspect of the control powers. And that's part of what we need to let go of. And so when we look at disease, it's all cause and effect, created from an environment of acids and alkaline. So we have two sides of chemistry, acids and alkaline. And we don't necessarily need a perfect, even balance between acid and alkaline. We need your body to have a nice symbiotic relationship with the acids and alkalines within your system and be able to deal with them properly in the detoxification process. So if there's a flaw in your detoxification process, that is where the symptoms of disease begin to manifest. So next week is where I'm going to start talking about that digestive detoxification, that process of digestion, detoxification, and all that, and get deeper into the cause and effect of all that. But the illusion disease, understanding that one simple thing, that all of your symptoms, all of the symptoms we see, as they manifest to the surface and in the physical form, in the physical exterior, as we see them, especially when you're seeing it on the surface, on the skin, in like tumors and stuff like that, that is a very progressed deterioration of the body. So it has to go through the spiritual, emotional, and mental body before it even manifests into the physical. So that is a very very degenerative process. So the more obvious, the more pronounced your symptoms are, then the more progressed the disease state has become. And the best way to tackle these diseases is by letting go of the labels of the diseases and simply observe the symptoms. And iridology is another thing I'm going to be talking about later. I'm going to write it down right now and make it episode 9. And when we understand the connection of our eyes to our organs and the meridians in Chinese medicine and how it links the entire body, it's a beautifully interconnected system. It's not single areas. That's where the specialists of allopathic medicine are more of a hindrance than a benefit, because you're just looking at one little area and you're ignoring the interconnection of your system. It's never, I repeat, never an isolated occurrence. It is never only occurring in your colon or your liver or your kidneys or your stomach. It's never just in that location. The only time you'll see it only in that location is very early on in illness, as it just begins to manifest in the system. And almost never is anything identified at that point, because it's very subtle. It's in the subtle body at the very early symptoms. And most people kind of are maybe aware enough, but most are not. And that's actually the next thing to speak to is the awareness. Being able to have the awareness of your body and the effect that certain things have on your body and how your body reacts to it. So then you can identify when things are out of order. And that's where you can begin to start to identify locations of where things are wrong and why. So as you begin to strip away all of the foods and things and products, you begin to work on the body from within. at a very stripped down, simplistic cellular state. And at that point, that is where the healing begins and that regenerative process begins. We're at 20 minutes, and I'm going to try to keep them at 20 minutes in this episode, in this season. So I'm going to leave it at that. Next week, we're going to get into then the detoxification and digestive process, speak a little bit more to the cause and effects. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you're enjoying this season. And I really love talking about all this stuff and getting deeper into the healing aspects as I journey into it as well. I am in this journey just as much as I'm speaking to it for you. I'm not at a fully healed, awakened, and fully realized person. I'm sharing this along my entire journey as well. So always feel free to email me or go to my website at theholisticfrugivore.com. I will post a link in the notes. Email me any questions. And I am, of course, now offering coaching sessions for the rest of June. And I think I'm going to extend through July. I am offering a 45-minute discovery session for $20, just to get an introduction to who you are, where you're at, what your wellness looks like, and what it would take to bring you into a healing journey and what that could look like for you. So please go to my website, email me, follow me on Instagram and my Facebook page, Wild and Raw Wellness. That is my location that I have here in Spring Valley that I'm now opening up. And I can always do phone calls or live sessions with anybody upon request or in studio. So please contact me if you would like some help. And I would love to guide you along the way in your journey. And I will be back next week for episode 5. Love and gratitude. Bye.